Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. A massive fire destroys part of the Interstate 10 in Los Angeles. The governor declared a state of emergency as the freeway remains shut down. Donald Trump Jr. says his father is an artist in real estate, but one of his father's properties may not be as successful as he thought. Day 3 of APEC. Protests are popping up around San Francisco as the city is transformed by high security measures. First up, an update on the massive fire that destroyed vital parts of a freeway in Los Angeles. The blaze has been put out, but cleanup and repairs are keeping the road closed. NTD's Christina Corona was on the scene earlier today. Let's take a look at our previous conversation.
We are here east of downtown Los Angeles, where a fire erupted under the 10 freeway early Saturday morning at a storage facility, which spread and ignited a second fire at a storage facility, ultimately engulfing around 80,000 square feet.
The fire burned 8 acres in downtown Los Angeles, so this is a very dense and busy area. What was included in damage?
Well, concrete is flaking off the columns behind me. Under the freeway bridge deck, it may be compromised, and dozens of vehicles were destroyed during the blaze. As of now, no serious injuries or deaths were reported due to the fire.
Officials say about 300,000 people drive through this part of the freeway every day. How are local and state officials handling this? What are the authorities saying to the residents?
Governor Gavin Newsom did declare a state of emergency for Los Angeles County. Mayor Karen Bass urged commuters to take public transportation or work from home if possible. Commuters can visit emergency.lacity.org for alternative routes, maps, and detours.
Any other updates people should be aware of?
As of now, officials have said the 10 freeway will remain closed indefinitely, and for commuters to use the 605 and 101 freeways if needed.
Thank you, Christina. And here's a recap of some other national headlines from today. Impeaching President Biden or not, House Republicans are still not sure. They first have to finish the impeachment inquiry. Congressman Jim Jordan gave a possible timeline on when the inquiry might end and the impeachment begin.
I believe we will get the depositions and the interviews done in this calendar year and then make a decision early next year whether there are the evidence warrants going to articles of impeachment and moving to that stage of the investigation. But I think this year, November, December, we will depose all these people we still need to depose, and then we can make a decision.
The House of Representatives could consider a vote this week to impeach Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced the resolution to oust Mayorkas last Thursday. Congressional Republicans say the secretary has failed to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. U.S. border agents have arrested more than 5 million illegal immigrants since Biden took office in 2021. The GOP blames Biden and Mayorkas for rolling back Trump-era immigration policies. The U.S.-Mexico border has come under renewed scrutiny following October's Hamas terror attacks. Republicans have voiced concerns about terrorists slipping into the country. A growing number of illegal immigrants on the terrorism watch list have been apprehended this year. Even if the House impeaches Mayorkas, the effort still needs approval from the Democratic-controlled Senate. The Supreme Court now has a code of conduct for the first time, following months of public scrutiny. The justices are now addressing concerns about unreported gifts. The new code is based on an existing code of conduct for lower courts. All 9 justices agreed to it. The code doesn't appear to impose any significant new requirements and leaves compliance entirely to each justice. The justices didn't make clear how the code will be enforced and said they have long adhered to ethics standards. The new code is an attempt to improve public confidence in the High Court. Months of headlines have alleged some justices of failing to report luxury gifts and trips. The move comes after mounting pressure from Democrats in Congress who threatened to pass new bills mandating ethics reform. Former President Trump is pushing for his federal election trial in Washington to be televised. His lawyers filed papers late Friday saying all Americans should be able to watch the proceedings. Federal court rules prohibit broadcasting such trials, but many news organizations say the unprecedented case warrants making an exception. The Justice Department opposes the effort. It argues that the judge overseeing the case does not have the authority to ignore the long-standing policy against cameras in federal courtrooms. Trump says the prosecution wants to continue what he called a travesty in darkness, but he wants it all exposed to sunlight. For more details of these stories, please visit ntd.com. Speaking of Trump's trial, Donald Trump Jr. returned to the stand today. This time he's being questioned by his own team as they began their defense in the New York civil fraud trial that could change the senior Trump's New York empire. Our legal correspondent Arlene Richards has more.
The older son of the former president is on the stand Monday for the second time, with Attorney General Letitia James not far behind. Donald Trump Jr. is the first witness for the defense in the New York fraud case filed by James. She accuses Donald Jr. of joining his father and his younger brother in defrauding banks and insurance companies. The last time he was on the stand, Donald Jr. said he didn't know much about his father's financial statements, which are at the heart of this trial. He said he only signed financial statements after checking first with his accountants and legal department. On Monday, Trump Jr. told the story of his father's real estate empire. The defense examination led the younger Trump through the family assets dating back to the 1900s. Trump Jr. touted his father's successes and called him an artist with real estate. The Attorney General objected to the lengthy testimony, but the judge sided with the defense attorneys, saying let him go ahead and talk about how great the Trump Organization is. Donald Jr. also talked about his role in the Trump Organization after his father became president. Both he and younger brother Eric took over managing the assets. Trump Jr. handled the bigger deals while Eric took care of the day-to-day management. The older brother bragged that Trump Tower was 90% occupied. On a very short cross-examination, the AG's attorney said the occupancy dropped to 77%. She showed documents stating the mortgage was transferred to a special servicer and that it was on the watch list. Trump Jr. quietly responding that he didn't know for sure if that was true. Trump Jr.'s testimony ended before court was adjourned. The defense then called tax attorney Sherry Dillon. The state previously asked her about a 2015 appraisal of a Trump estate valued at $56.5 million. But in financial statements from 2011 to 2021, it was valued between $261 and $291 million. On Monday, Dillon explained her role as a tax attorney involved in conversations about the property appraisals.
Now over to California, where downtown San Francisco has been transformed with high security provisions for APEC. Multiple protests have already happened, with more to come. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
Downtown San Francisco has basically morphed into a high security zone. As you can see behind me, there are high fences in place. A 4x4 block area won't allow any unauthorized vehicles in. And then there's a red zone area inside there that won't allow any unauthorized pedestrians. Many of APEC's meetings and activities are scheduled to happen here. Other street closures begin today in the city's Nob Hill neighborhood near hotels where some of the high-ranking attendees, including President Biden, are said to be staying. A 3x3 block area is closed off with similar provisions as the downtown security area. Public transit has also been affected by many reroutes. San Francisco's famous cable cars have been temporarily replaced by buses. The San Francisco Police Department started training and getting ready for the trade summit since February. 2,000 to 5,000 police and federal officers are expected to be in town, which is about one officer for every 4 attendees. However, a lot of the law enforcement will be outside and around the city deterring possible threats and managing multiple protests expected through the week. On Sunday, multiple groups protested against the APEC summit. Footage on the Citizen app shows that earlier today, some aerialists propelled down the Transamerica Pyramid, calling for a ceasefire with the Israel-Hamas war. And there's more protest activity expected to happen. Most of it will likely be on Wednesday and Thursday when APEC will be at its peak. As far as meetings, tomorrow the APEC CEO Summit welcome reception is scheduled to happen at the Moscone Center downtown. Reporting in San Francisco, Jason Blair, NTD News.
Identifying fake news now required for California students. The new law says it's for preparing people to critically think about online content and potential misinformation. NTD's David Lam has more.
A big gap in where people get their news, and is different for both young and older adults. So kindergarten to high school students in California would soon learn about media literacy. Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill in October to add media literacy at each grade level, which will be integrated into English, math, science, and history social studies lessons. Cal Matters reports that the curriculum would include recognizing fake news and thinking critically about content on the internet. A gradual rollout is planned for 2024. Now, in 2015, a Stanford University research found that more than 80% of middle school participants believed that advertisement with the words sponsored content was a real news story. According to Pew Research Center in 2022, adults under 30 years old are nearly as likely to believe information on social media as they are from news outlets, with half of them saying they have some or a lot of trust in info from social media sites. So how are people getting their news? Pew Research found that nearly 1/3 of U.S. adults say they regularly get news from Facebook, while 25% get news from YouTube, 14% on Twitter, 13% from Instagram, and 10% of adults get news from TikTok. And adults from the age range from 18 to 29 make up at least half of the regular news consumers on Snapchat, TikTok, and Reddit. Those older had a higher percentage of getting news from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. While teachers may teach students critically evaluating news, the state of California did not have an official framework and hopes that this bill will change that. David Lam, NTD News, California.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Bird flu spreads on a farm in Iowa. Millions of chickens are being slaughtered to contain the virus. A new world surfing record. We'll take a look at the impressive stunt by an Australian surfer. Big plays over the weekend in the world of football will bring you some of the highlights and notable performances. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. A bird flu discovered on an Iowa farm. More chickens are now getting slaughtered. Tens of millions were slaughtered last year after the initial outbreak.
An additional 1.2 million chickens will be slaughtered to prevent the spread of the bird flu after the virus was confirmed on an Iowa egg farm. The Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship announced the latest bird flu infection at a farm in Taylor County on Friday. Iowa's governor immediately declared a disaster there to make sure the state has the resources to respond quickly. The Iowa case is just the latest one in the outbreak that began early last year and has prompted officials to kill a total of nearly 63 million birds. Earlier last week, 1 million chickens were killed on a Minnesota egg farm. But the vast majority of the cases, or nearly 58 million birds, occurred last year. Anytime a case of bird flu is found, the entire flock is killed to help keep the highly contagious virus from spreading to another farm. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has been finding fewer wild birds carrying the virus this year, which suggests that some ducks and geese may be developing immunity. The virus is spread easily by the droppings of those wild birds that can be tracked onto farms. Poultry and egg farmers try to keep the virus from reaching their farms by requiring workers to shower and change clothes before they enter barns. Trucks are also sanitized before they enter the farm, and separate sets of tools are kept for each barn. The losses last year contributed to higher egg and poultry prices, but those prices have dropped significantly this year. Infections in humans are rare and usually come only in people with prolonged exposure to sick birds.
A famed Hollywood agent's son linked to murder investigation. Detectives seek help in finding missing family and vehicles. NTD's Stephanie Sikal reports.
Samuel Haskell Jr., the son of Dolly Parton's Hollywood agent, was arrested on suspicion of murder on November 8th. Investigators suspect him of being involved in the death of his wife and potentially his missing in-laws. Authorities say police tracked a body part found in a dumpster near the home where he lives with his wife, May Lee Haskell. Inside Haskell's residence, detectives found evidence including blood aligned with violent acts and dismemberment. Currently, Haskell is in custody with a bail set at $2 million. Legal records from 2008 detail a prior arrest where he faced charges of assault with a deadly weapon. Haskell later pleaded no contest to battery and received a 3-year probation sentence in 2010. Public records confirm Haskell's relation to Sam Haskell, the former executive vice president of television at the William Morris Endeavor Agency. Sam Haskell, known for representing A-list stars during his time at the agency, retired in 2005 but remains involved with Magnolia Hill Productions, which has been responsible for several Dolly Parton specials. Regarding the incident, the LA Robbery Homicide Division has taken charge of the investigation. They are seeking public's assistance in locating May Lee Haskell and her parents, Go Zhan Lee and Yang Xiang Wang. Detectives are also on the lookout for 2 missing vehicles, a white Volkswagen Tiguan and a white 2014 Nissan Pathfinder with the following license plate numbers. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, California.
A new world record for the biggest wave was surfed by a woman. She learned of her accomplishment after a photographer captured her stunt and contacted her.
The World Surf League and Guinness World Records said on November 8th, Australian Laura Enever has surfed her way into the record books after stroking into a giant 4-story wave in Hawaii earlier this year.
When I took off, I looked down the face and was like, holy cow, this is the biggest wave you've ever been on, and just make it to the bottom, like do not fall here at the top. And yeah, so I made it to the bottom, and then just got to let go and enjoy that ride, and then the wave just like took me out of the bottom. But yeah, the adrenaline and the feeling of just like riding that wave was just amazing.
The 31-year-old was surfing at an outer reef on Oahu's North Shore in January when she caught a huge blue wall measuring 43.6 feet. She broke the world record for the biggest wave ever paddled into by a woman. Nearby, most photographers and videographers were covering a big wave competition at Waimea Bay. While Enever knew it was a big wave, it wasn't until days later when a photographer messaged her with a picture of her ride that she realized it might be a world record.
It was just so cool to see because I knew how it felt and how it looked. But then when you see the photos, you're like, wow, I'm so glad it was captured. I'm so thankful for those photographers.
Hawaii's Aaron Gold holds the men's paddle record, a 63-foot wave he caught in 2016 on Maui. The biggest wave ever ridden is the 86-footer at Nazare by Germany's Sebastian Stüdner in 2020.
Now we turn it over to NTD's Carlos Reyes for this week's NFL recap.
Raiders interim coach Antonio Pierce is on fire with a 2-0 record, sparking a complete turnaround for the team. Defensively, the Raiders held the Jets out of the end zone, and Robert Spillane's late fourth-quarter interception of Zach Wilson was an absolute game-changer. Offensively, the Raiders have simplified their approach under Pierce, relying more on Josh Jacobs, who's had over 25 carries for the second straight week, a significant shift from the previous 8 games. Aiden O'Connell, while not flawless, threw a crucial touchdown pass to Michael Mayer for the game winner. Under Pierce's leadership, the Raiders are back at 500, providing a much-needed boost for fans and players after a challenging start. Let's dive into the Cardinals' recent win over the Falcons. Kyler Murray, making a comeback after last season's ACL tear, showcased his quarterback prowess by orchestrating a clutch game-winning drive in the last 2 minutes and 33 seconds of the game. Picture this, 77 yards covered, and it all set the stage for Prater's winning field goal. Now the standout moment, that belongs to Trey McBride, who lit up the field with an impressive 131 receiving yards. Fun fact, he's the first Cardinals tight end to break the 100-yard mark since 1989. Murray's return isn't just a win on paper, it's a game changer for the team's dynamics. With him back in the lineup, the Cardinals are gearing up for a promising stretch in the next 8 weeks. Keep a close watch because it seems like the Cardinals are on the verge of being a spoiler for many teams looking to make a playoff run.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.